Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zak's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 13th of December. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which still looks to be in a mid-move consolidation ahead of a move to the upside. That's set on the basis of the rising 50 and 200-day lines. And also, by the way, that the RSI has bounced above neutral 50. It stands at 57 at the moment. So expecting over the rest of the month for a break of 8,400 and then up to 8,600, maybe by the end of next month. On the downside, probably nothing worse now than the 200-day line. Maybe there'll be a test of it like we had back in November. Moving along to the DAX, which has done rather better than the FTSE so far this month, but much better. Here you can see that we're not far away from the top of the rising trend channel there, 20,800. We're looking for that by the end of this month, and probably a bit more than that as well. If this is a mid-move consolidation, then the upside could be well above 21,000. On the downside, hopefully nothing lower than that gap, the unfilled gap there around 20,000 for the downside. Moving on to the Dow, which has been out of sorts in the recent past. Here you can see we've had consecutive down days, and it looks as though this market wants to head towards the 50-day line there at 43,300. Hopefully we'll get away with it, but given that the way the RSI is now below neutral 50, does suggest that we're going to have at least a close test of that 50-day line, even if we don't actually touch it like we did back in the middle of last month. On the upside, above 45,000, if we ever get there, then the next level up would be as high as 47,000, the upper parallel, that rising channel that we've been in since August. Moving along to Bitcoin, which is, I suppose, the star of the show at the moment, and the one that everybody wants to know about. Here you can see that we're just trading either side of 100,000, which is useful. The target there up to 103,000, which is basically the top of the near-term channel that we've been in. Above 103, then we're looking for 120,000 perhaps by the end of next month, if we do the kind of move that we did back in November. That time we went up from around 70,000 to 100,000, and maybe this time we could go up from 90,000 to 120, so it would sort of add up. Moving along to gold, and here there has been there had been a revival, but we're back now near the 50-day line, which tends to be the sort of support area in certain these kinds of situations. Bull trap through the November peak, which is not helpful either, and I suppose we must have the risk there of a test of 2630, or even the floor of the channel there at 2600. Above 2750 properly, i.e. end of day or end of week close, then we're looking for a best case scenario target up to 2875, which is the top of that rising trend channel from April. Moving along to the stocks, and starting off with Atlantic Lithium, and here the shares have not exactly excelled themselves, but you can see that we've had an unfilled gap to the upside that we had on the 6th of December, and we've actually held the shares have actually held the bottom of the gap there. So it does look as though there's a trend change there, and this is a bull flag ahead of a move up to at least 17 or 18 pence, the area of the 200-day moving average and previous early 2024 support. Nice risk reward there, given that below 12.5 pence it probably isn't going to happen, and also we've had a double bounce of the RSI above neutral 50. On to Angle, which has been rather painful in the recent past, but looks as though it might be trying to get itself going again. Here we've had not only a gap close signal, which was back on the 11th of November, which was closing that gap from September around 11 pence, but then we've had what I call a sideways shuffle, which is a consolidation above a rising 50-day line that tends to lead to a push to the upside. Initial resistance here at the 13 pence level, but we're actually looking for up to 20 pence by the end of next month at the top of that broadening triangle from back in March last year, and ideally we stay above that 50-day line, or we need to, at 9.25 in order to get that target towards 20 pence. Audioboom seems to be still trying to regroup after hurting its shareholders over the course of 2 years or more, actually. But here you can see that we managed to hit our, I suppose that was our third target there at around £3.70. Above 370, though, we're looking for a fresh leg to the upside, and that could be up to £5, which is an early 2023 resistance line projection. And what's interesting here is that recent support's come in above 320, but at least while we're above £3, looking for that £5 level, and we're probably only now a day or two away from a golden cross after the unfilled gap to the upside in the middle of last month started the rally that we're seeing at the moment. Moving on to Cadence, which seems to be regrouping nicely as well at the moment. Good news about a mapper, and managed to clear the now rising 50-day line. We broke that resistance line there from March, and all that's left now really is to clear the 200-day moving average at 3.25 and head up to 4 pence, perhaps by the end of this month if we are lucky. Ideally, we stay above initial December resistance at 2.8 pence. On to Cadogan, which has delivered a bolt from the blue type of rise here, but wasn't entirely unexpected because we already had the shares breaking out of the initial triangle there from July. That was we had a 2.6 pence target, and then the best case scenario target was up to 4.4 pence, and we went up to that intraday. Let's see if we can get any higher than that. Above 4.4, obviously looking for the old April resistance there from 2021 as high as 5.5 pence. Ideally, we stay on the right side of 3 pence in the meantime. Moving on to energy pathways, where there seems to be a bit of a battle between the bulls and the bears. So far, one could say that the bulls are winning, even though we've had this quite extended consolidation, but looks like this is a mid-move consolidation after the unfilled gap to the upside. And interestingly enough, even when the shares gapped down at the beginning of the month, they managed to retrieve that particular level around 9.5 pence. Proof of the pudding would be a break of 10.5 pence, and that would take us up to the top of the channel there as high as 16 pence, and hopefully we could see that by the end of next month. Only back below the 50-day line at 7.5 really questions the break higher, and you can also see that we've had a double and triple bounce off RSI 50, which tends to be a good leading indicator on the upside. Moving on to Gene Drive, and here we've got a situation, we've got a rising trend channel base, and we've also got a rising 50-day moving average, which suggests that we can at least head up to top of the channel there at 3.2 pence, maybe by the end of next month, while we remain above the floor of the channel at 2 pence. Next up is Kazira, which had 2 RNSs today, I believe, and that seems to have done the trick for the shares as well. We've got a rising trend channel here, which has been in place basically since the spring, and looking for progress to the top of the channel, which could be as high as the 2 pence zone, and maybe we could get that by the end of this month. 1.9 to 2 pence hopefully on the cards there. Ideally, we stay above the 50-day line there at 1.1 pence. Moving on to ORCA, which feels like it has an RNS every day, but what's interesting here from a charting point of view is that we've finally broken out of the 2 pence to 6 pence range, and now are looking for a target at 10 pence, which would obviously be equal to the width of the old range. The other point to note is that we're probably just a few days away from a golden cross, and the run-up to a golden cross tends to be the strongest part of the cycle. We've already had 3 unfilled gaps to the upside in the recent past, so the shares are motoring. Next up is Orcadian, and here we had our, well, I suppose it's the second target there at the top of that triangle there from back in April. Above that at 13 pence, we're looking for 18 pence as soon as the end of next month. But that was a great example of a sideways shuffle above a rising 50-day line, which came in basically at the turn of the month. Moving on to Optibiotics, which has given people a bit of a dance over the recent past, but it looks as though second time lucky we're going to stay above the 200-day line there at 18.7 pence, and above that looking for 32 pence, hopefully by the end of next month. 50-day line rising as well, and one presumes that with the bounce for the RSI above neutral 50, we'll see the 200-day line start to rise quite quickly as well. On to Panthera, where we're always waiting for some excitement in terms of a potential win for the company against the government of India. But here you can see that we've broken that resistance line there from back in September last year. That was around 7.5 pence. Above that, we actually are looking for 13 pence or much more over the near term, maybe by the end of next month, while both the 50 and 200-day lines are rising, with the key here staying above that low 7p zone. Onto a more esoteric situation, and that comes in the form of Proton Motor Systems. Here we had an exhaustion gap to the downside. An end-of-day close above the top of the gap there at 0.43 could take the shares back up to a penny, and it looks as though also we've got a U-shaped turnaround, which should be very strong indeed. But wait for that 0.43 plus close. Only back below recent resistance at 0.29 really delays the recovery scenario. On to Sealand, which was one of the exciting situations at the beginning of the month. We had our various targets there at around the 0.5 pence level, then 1.1, then 1.8, and obviously the top of the channel there as high as 2 3/4, but it looks as though we're going back above the third target there, and above 1.8, looking for a retest of the 2.7, 2.8 pence level. Finishing off with Zenith, and here we've got a situation where the shares have been, well, obviously normally rather dead, but it is interesting that even within that dead context, we've had a unfilled gap to the downside and unfilled gap to the upside. So that's a bear trap island reversal to new lows, and then we've got a sideways shuffle above a rising 50-day line, which tends to be the market waiting for good news, which hopefully we will get. Here you can see that the top of the triangle there from April heading for 2.3 pence, and we're looking for that by the end of next month, while we remain above that 50-day line at 1.4 pence. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.